this is Jill from Fabric Garden Quilt Shop in Sacramento, California. And as we head into the Valentine season, we have got a really cute little Valentine project for you. This is the Heart Mug Rug made with the 6-inch Log Cabin Trim Tool from Creative Grids. We've also made a cute little miniature version using the 4-inch Log Cabin Trim Tool. We love the Creative Grids rulers. They have so many rulers that help you make your perfect blocks. All the rulers have a non-slip grip on the back so that if you have no pressure on the ruler, your ruler moves around on the fabric, but once you put some pressure, the ruler stays in place so you can cut without risk of slippage of the ruler. Now, this particular ruler shows right on here the 3 types of blocks that this will make. So this will make a regular log cabin block, which starts in the center and adds 3 rounds on it. It will also make a courthouse step block where you're adding to 2 sides and then the top and bottom, again 3 rounds. And it will also make what's called a half log, where you start from one corner and you add 6 rounds or half rounds since it's a half log. And this is the block we're going to be making for the mug rug. So when we take a look at this ruler, let me switch the camera up for you here. There are several directions on the ruler. So first we can see the 3 blocks that it will make. Then we will see that it tells us that the center square for this 6-inch log cabin should be cut 2 inches. That's the only precise cutting that you need to do. All the other cutting does not need to be precise, only the 2-inch square. Then all the strips need to be at least 1.5 inches. So there is no need for precision strip cutting. As long as the strip is at least 1.5 inches wide, you can use it. So if you have leftover strips from another project that are 2 inches wide, 2.5 inches wide, it's okay. The only requirement is that the strip has 1 straight side to line up. So we're going to get started here, and we're going to start with my 2-inch center square, or actually it's going to be the corner square, and I sew on 1 light side. Now you can see that I didn't have to worry too much, is it cut precisely the size of the 2-inch square. I just snipped off a little piece of fabric off my strip, sewed it on, and pressed it towards the strip. And then I added the next piece. So now I've got the center, the light, and the dark. And this is where, on this half log, where we do the first trim. So I look at the ruler, and it says half log cabin and round 1. So I'm going to take this round 1 square, which is the first square on the ruler, and I am going to line the lines on that square with the seam lines. And you can see I've got extra fabric here. How much extra fabric you have depends on the width of your strips, and I will take my rotary cutter and I will cut off those 2 sides. And when I do that, now I have this nice piece. So I head back to the sewing machine with my trimmed piece, and now I go ahead and I add 1 more light round and 1 more dark round. And then I'm going to come back with my ruler, and now I am looking for the square that is labeled round 2. And I put the round 2 square, I line that up with my seam lines, and you can see I'm going to trim 2 sides. So with this half round, we're going to add 6 rounds. So, and at each round, you're going to trim using the square on the ruler. Round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we will continue adding rounds all the way out to round 6. And so here we are at round 6. Once I get to round 6, I am using that last square on the ruler, and I'm laying it on, and now I will trim all 4 sides, and I will have a perfect 6-inch square. So that is the base. That 6-inch square is the base for our half log heart. Before I move on to the rest of the heart, I want to just show you quickly how the squares work if you are working with a regular log cabin block. Because when you're making a regular log cabin, you're only going to have 3 rounds, and that 2-inch square you cut is in the middle. So you cut your square, you add round 1, you add round 2, round 3, and then round 4. And now you have a piece that's kind of got all sorts of things sticking out. And again, I am using that round 1 square. And this time, because I have 4 rounds, I will trim 2 sides, and then I will flip that around, line up my square again, and trim the other 2 sides. So when I do that, this piece will now become this nicely trimmed piece. Then I will add 1 more round. This time I will use the round 2 square, trim 2 sides, flip that block 180 degrees, line that round 2 up again, and trim the other 2 sides. And I will do that again after round 3 using the round 3 square lined up with the center. And on round 3, I can go ahead and trim all the way around the outside edge of the ruler. So the main difference between making a regular log cabin and making the half log is that on the half log, you're only needing to trim 2 sides. On the regular log cabin or the courthouse steps, you need to trim all 4 sides of the block at each round. Okay, let's get back to making our heart. Let's give this block its last trim. So as we talked about, I'm going to trim a couple sides of it. I'm going to trim all the way around. I've not got my rotating mat with me here today, so I'm going to go ahead and trim 2 sides, and then I'm going to trim the other 2 sides. Just making sure my seam is nicely lined up. Okay, so now I've got my perfect half log all trimmed. So now for the heart, we need to get our lobes onto the heart. So I have got, as per the pattern, a couple of rectangles cut, and these are going to sew on. You can, if you want it to look like ours, where one side is dark, one side is light, you'll sew the matching rectangle on, and then you will sew the 2 rectangles on. And there's a nice picture of this in the pattern. So these will get sewn on, and after that, on the last page of your pattern, you've got a template, and I just used freezer paper, and freezer paper has a shiny side and a matte side. So I just put the freezer paper on here and drew 2 pieces. Once I've got these sewn on, I will just fuse these on. And I'm just kind of pretending we've got the seam sewn there. When you fuse it on, the point, one edge should come right to the top point, and the other edge should come 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, because we're going to be sewing a back to this. We're going to be taking 1/4 inch seam allowance. So one side, so I just press this on, the shiny side will stick with the iron, and when you're done you'll be able to just peel it off, and you will do that with both sides. Press that on, and you can just leave those on at this point. And then when you have that done, you can just take your backing and you'll layer your backing, your batting, and your top. And then you will just use your template and the outside edge of the square for sewing, and then make sure to leave an opening. You've got to probably need a good 2 to 4 inch opening for turning this. So very simple. So that is how you make that. And of course, if you want to make the smaller version, you will use the 4-inch trim tool. And when you do that, you will just take this to a copier and reduce the image by, I think we just played with it till it fit our block. So you'll just play with that because every one reduces a little differently. Okay, so I was going to show you a couple more things, because if you're going to buy a ruler like this, you want to know you can make more than a mug rug. So Penny Haren also wrote a nice book called Log Cabin Quilts, and it's a very nice book, and it really gives good instructions for the rulers and what you need to cut. It gives full instructions on trimming and using the rulers, and it's got a lot of pages of that for all the different types. It's got the log, the courthouse steps, and the half log, and so it's got an absolute step-by-step full color for just the basic usage of the ruler. And then it gets into quilt patterns. So then it's got a lot of nice quilt patterns, and in here, there we go. Let's see, here's another one. Oh, this one's got a little applique fall pumpkin in it. Cute with the light strips and polka dots. And some standard log cabin. So it's got some patterns and some really nice instructions for the ruler. Also, Creative Grids makes a series of patterns called Cut Loose Press, and if you click the link in the video, you will find also a selection of cut loose press patterns that use the log cabin trim rulers. The nice thing about these rulers, and this is the 6, this is the 4, there is also an 8-inch ruler, and there is also a 10-inch ruler. Any pattern can really use any ruler. So a pattern might be written to use the 6-inch, but if you want your quilt to be larger, but you don't want to have to make more blocks, you can just upsize the size of your block by selecting a different log cabin trim tool. So you might have to do a little bit of math calculation on how much yardage is needed, but instead of making a quilt larger by making more blocks, you can make the ruler larger, the blocks larger. And the same if a pattern is written for the 6-inch and you want to make a little miniature quilt or a little table runner or something smaller, you can just downsize and use the smaller ruler. So a lot of flexibility in using the patterns. So that is, let me come back up here. There I am. Okay, so that is it for today's demo for making the heart mug rug and using the Creative Grids log cabin trim tools. Make sure to check out the links in the description for links to purchasing the tools and books, and also for getting the free pattern will be there also. And thank you for joining us today.